My prayers are with the people of France as they recover from this terrible, terrible tragedy. This is not just a tragedy that occurred in France. This is an international tragedy which could happen in the United States at any time, as we learned on September 11, 2001, when I was mayor of this great city. I also want to state that North Carolina has a proud tradition and a humanitarian obligation to provide a hands up for those in need, including international refugees. However, because President Obama earlier this year increased the number of refugees from Syria coming into the United States from 2,000 to 10,000 people, and because of the most recent attacks in Paris and the very real possibility that one of the terrorists entered France as a recent refugee, I am now requesting that the President and the federal government cease sending refugees from Syria to North Carolina until we are thoroughly satisfied with the effectiveness of the federal background checks and security checks conducted on such refugees entering our country. We are also reviewing refugee security from 33 special interest countries in consultation with the Department of Homeland Security and asking for more information on those who have already arrived here from those countries to determine if additional direction or background is needed, especially for our public safety personnel right here in North Carolina. For additional information, I want to communicate to you that from January 2014 until October 2015, North Carolina has received 59 refugees from Syria. To date, we have received almost little or no security information about those refugees, on their backgrounds, even possibly their names in certain circumstances. We are asking for more additional collaboration and basic information, such as where these refugees are now residing. I have instructed my Secretary of Health and Human Services, Rick Brazier, and Secretary of Department of Public Safety, Frank Perry, to work with and coordinate with appropriate federal representatives and report their findings back to me. And we are in constant communication right now with especially our two senators, and I'm also in communication with state representatives who have similar concerns. And I think these concerns are warranted in this time, as the French Premier says, is war. North Carolina has had connections to major terrorism activity in the past. For example, some of the terrorists involved in 9/11 attacks have had flight lessons right here in North Carolina. In September, a task force of Homeland Security Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives issued a report on, quote, combating terrorist and foreign fighter travel. The task force issued 32 key findings, one of which was, and I state in quotes, U.S. enforcement intelligence agencies remain concerned about terrorists posing as refugees. Agencies have made improvements to the refugee screening process, but more must be done to mitigate potential vulnerabilities, and we believe there are vulnerabilities at this point in time in North Carolina and throughout the country. Let me also share with you another quote from this report, and I quote, members of terrorist groups like ISIS have publicly bragged that they are working to sneak operatives into the West posing as refugees, and European officials are worried that this is already the case. Now again, this is a recent report, and sadly, some of this report has come to be the truth. There are other recommendations that warrant a pause of our accepting refugees from Syria, including a number of serious overseas security gaps in countries that refugees use as gateways into the United States of America. My primary duty as governor is to protect the citizens of North Carolina, which is why I'm taking these steps and making this request of the President today. Now, again, before we go to questions, and I'm here to take questions, my prayers continue to be with the people of France. I also continue to pray for our men and women from the United States who are stationed across the world, and we pray for their safety, and we thank them for their service.